Now you can walk.
This is happening because you will it to be.
Is this my will?
This world with the floor is the only thing around yourself.
But now you can move around anywhere you wish to within it.
You could even turn the world upside down if you wanted to do that.
And your perspective within your world is constantly changing.
It changes with the passage of time.
You can change yourself as well.
Because the thing that forms your shape is your mind and its interaction with the world that surrounds you.
You can do anything here because this is your world.
This is the shape of your reality.
How about a positive LSD story? Wouldn't that be newsworthy just once, to base your decision on information rather than scare tactics and superstitions and lies? Just once. I think it would be newsworthy. Today, a young man on acid realized that all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration, that we are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There is no such thing as death. Life is only a dream, and we're the imagination of ourselves. Here's Tom with the weather.
There are stories that entertain us, stories that make us think, and then there are stories that change our lives. The Egg by Andy Weir is one such story for me. Whether consciously or unconsciously, it has completely transformed my understanding of existence and who I am in this vast universe. Today, I want to share with you how this short story changed my entire life. But first, let's delve into the story itself a little bit. The Egg is quite a short story. In it, a man who dies in a car accident meets God, who explains that the universe is an egg, and the man is constantly reincarnated to live every human life that has ever existed or will ever exist. The core message of the story is quite simple but profound. Love others not as though they were yourself, but because they literally are yourself. Every soul and every life is you. Now, years ago, when I first watched that animation by Kurzgesagt, I didn't quite understand the depth of its message. Silly little me just thought, oh, it's just some little metaphor that's really preaching to empathize with people. Nothing more, nothing less. But little did I know, some unconscious part of me intuited that it was more than a metaphor. The philosophy behind the egg is rooted in the principle of what is called non-duality. All of my spiritual watchers probably know what this is, but for newcomers, this is something you've probably never heard of. Now, non-duality teaches us three things. 1, there is only existence, and it is a single unit, absolutely one. This is probably the most obvious truth that there will ever be. Existence exists. Anything that partakes in existence exists. So there's only existence, right? 2, existence is infinity itself, or what one would call God, if you will. And 3, existence is self-aware, or what we would call consciousness. And this consciousness is you. What fascinated me most about applying this perspective to the egg was how it illuminates our experience of self and other. If existence is truly one unified awareness, then all distinctions, every single one, any distinction between me and you, or this and that, they just dissolve away. We're not individual islands of consciousness floating separate in a sea of objective external reality. No. Rather, the consciousness hearing these very words, the consciousness experiencing this very moment and this very life, it's the same exact consciousness that's living through every other being throughout all of space and time. It's all one and the same identical consciousness. Now, this initially blew my mind, as I realized I wasn't just some character in the story of life. Rather, I was life itself, taking countless forms across the expanse of time and perception. The boundaries between selves began to blur as I grasped that inner essence. you and I, we're not so different after all. We are simply waves arising simultaneously within the single ocean of infinite being. Quite poetic, right? Now, speaking of poets, the Islamic poet Rumi says that you're not a drop in the ocean, but rather the ocean in a drop. The Christian philosopher, Meister Eckhart, he says that the eye with which you see God is the same eye with which God sees you. God's eye and your eye are one eye, one knowing, one seeing, and one love. The Hindu sage Ramana Maharshi, his student asked him, "How should we treat others?" And this sage, Ramana Maharshi, he responds. Now, it makes sense that in the story of the egg, the character God says that every religion is right in their own way now, doesn't it? Alright, now let's segue into a personal story. I clearly remember this fateful November night in 2021 like it was yesterday. My best friend and I were having one of our regular late night talks, debating life's bigger questions and whatnot, when he brought up the idea that our sense of separation from one another and the world was merely an illusion. Something inside of me clicked. It was as if a light had been switched on that began to illuminate the parts of my existence in a whole new light. From that moment on, I became obsessed with exploring philosophies and spiritual teachings that emphasized our underlying unity, rather than ones that emphasized our separation. Wink wink, materialism, atheism, etc. I delved deeply into concepts of non-duality in Hindu traditions like Advaita Vedanta and Chinese traditions like Taoism, but even in Western traditions like Plato and Aristotle and all these other dudes, and even in Christianity. The more I learned, the more this perspective transformed, literally transformed the way I view myself and reality. Slowly but surely, it dawned on me that I wasn't a separate ego identity floating through life, but rather a manifestation, a direct manifestation of the whole cosmos coming to know itself through this limited, finite mind of mine. All separation begins to feel superficial as you glimpse the one consciousness looking through many different eyes. What had once seemed solid and fixed dissolves into fluid interconnection. That chance conversation I had with my best friend lit a fire in me to understand existence from this unified, big picture standpoint, seeing the forest for the trees, and it unveiled enlightening new ways of relating to life, myself, and everyone around me, my friends, my family, everyone. My pets, like literally everyone, and even inanimate objects. That's what I mean by life transforming. It truly marked the beginning of a whole new chapter in my journey. Alright, so everything that I've said up until this point has been theoretical. So I want to see if you can see what I see in you. Try to see if you can become very, very aware and conscious of your first person perspective, your point of view. Everything that comprises this point of view, the sights, sounds, feelings, sensations, etc., it all creates this present moment. You have this sort of bubble of consciousness. The thing that I am pointing to, the you that I am pointing to that's sort of looking out through your eyes and enveloping the whole bubble with its awareness, is the same thing as me. This is consciousness. This is first person experience. And this is you. And you strictly cannot be measured by science. This direct first person experience is immeasurable. The first person perspective that's looking through my eyes is the same first person perspective looking through yours. We focus on the differences of these first person perspectives because they appear differently to us. The content within this present moment, this first person experience, appears different, but the very first person experience itself is what's common to all of us, and it is what shapes our very lives. It's what shapes everything around us. It's all the same thing. We don't want to get tripped up on semantics here. Strictly speaking, it's not me and you. Really, it's all just you. right? So you can become conscious of the sensations of your body, the thoughts in your head, the emotions that you feel, the sights that you see, the smells that you smell, all of that. You can become conscious of all that. You can even become conscious of yourself. But the thing that is conscious of all that, you, the one that is aware of all that, does not die. It doesn't go away. Sights, sounds, feelings, smells, etc. All these things in your present moment, they can come and go away just like that. But there's something that's aware of all that that just simply doesn't leave, right? This first person self-awareness never goes away. Basically what that means is the entire universe is within you. When you die, that basic self-awareness will just inhabit a different first person perspective, whether it be the first person story of your life, or of my life, or of an animal's life, or of a plant's life, or of an alien's life, or what have you. Reincarnation is just looking through the eyes of someone else after you pass on. But the trick is that someone else's eyes will always only be your eyes, because you're just the entire universe perceiving itself through this finite mind of yours and as this finite mind. One of the most impactful elements of the philosophy behind the egg is its implication of reincarnation, that our consciousness doesn't end with physical death, but continues evolving through innumerable lives. At first, the notion that I would lose any distinct individual identity after death and be reborn as countless other beings was quite terrifying. If I had ceased to exist as me, Steph, what the heck was the point of it all? The universe will completely wipe the slate clean, and I will dissolve into the infinite void of nothingness, right? I mean, even beyond that, if existence is infinite and reincarnation is true, then by that logic, I will reincarnate into a life filled with suffering, right? A life filled with my worst nightmares. I don't want that. I don't want to suffer. And that's quite a scary thought. In the egg story, the human asks, I'm Hitler? And then God is like, yeah, and you're everyone that he killed. That's crazy. Crazy to think about, right? So that can be a scary thought. But we have to adopt a sort of attitude of stoicism, right? You have to see what's really in your control as an individual. What is in your control, right? There's life, and there's how you respond to life. And there's the grand order of the universe and its events, but then there's how you respond to that. So as I reflected more deeply, I realized this perspective actually holds profound wisdom, this perspective of reincarnation. Knowing our lives are infinite helps put into perspective that each instant, each present moment is incredibly precious. It brings about this beautiful paradox, an urgent need to be both selfish and selfless at the same time. How, Steph? How? How does that work? Simple. I just help myself awaken to the truth of this existence. And by myself, I just mean you, the very person watching this video. So when I help even one other being towards liberation from illusion and suffering, from the illusion of separation, I am in fact uplifting myself, this you watching right now, and this me sharing. At our core, we're not separate at all. My purpose is your purpose, is our purpose, is the universe's purpose. It's to reclaim full remembering of our identity as everything, as infinite oneness itself. That would be the egg hatching, of course. Coming to this profound realization of non-duality and infinite reincarnation sparked within me this fiery passion. If this eternal consciousness that I am will continue evolving through innumerable future lives, I want the impact of this current life to resound and echo for all of eternity. Not only do I desire to grow into the best possible version of myself in this moment, precisely because I have the infinite freedom to do so in this grand, vast universe, but I also aspire to leave such a positive mark that its ripple effects aid in my own continual awakening across lifetimes. The thought that some small act of love or courage or creativity that I manifest today could be what sparks a glimmer of recognition in a future reincarnation, spurs me to use this precious human opportunity to its greatest potential. I want to sow seeds whose fruits I may pluck in future forms, helping peel away layers of illusory separation and remember our true divine essence. It is with a reverence for the eternal journey that I strive to uplift all beings. Yes, all beings. I know, quite a noble and idealistic goal, but hey, why not aim big, right? But not only do I want to just strive to uplift all beings, I want to create works of beauty, and I want to spread insights that cut through ignorance and illusion and suffering. If all of existence is simply one consciousness, one awareness playing with itself throughout endless space and time, what utter privilege we have to enrich this marvelous, perplexing game we call life. I intend to make every moment count as I strive with every fiber of my very being to realize and guide others as myself to awaken to the blissful truth that we are all just existence perceiving itself, cosplaying as humans, playing this grand game of life. I want to help myself, you, the watcher of this video, awaken to the radiant joy, peace, happiness, and satisfaction that comes from the profound realization of love. Because love is just oneness, it's just connection. Now, while the egg presents itself as a short work of fiction, its message reverberates far beyond the boundaries of mere words on a page or an animation on a computer screen or a phone screen. At its core, it exists to remind us of truths that transcend time itself, that we are all eternally intertwined in a grand tapestry of life, sharing the unfolding experience of infinite consciousness across various forms. In reawakening us to our shared nature and purpose, it calls us to recognize that all beings throughout existence have been where we are, and we too will be where they have been across eternity's river. So I hope that through sharing my experience of being deeply impacted by the egg, it inspires you to see your own story, and of course, by extension, all stories, with new eyes of interconnected wonder, love, and humility. I hope that it humbles you just as much as it has humbled me, though the path is quite long. Together, let us walk in remembrance of our true magnificent nature, lifting each other as we climb towards full illumination. You, the very awareness experiencing this moment, are the universe coming to know its own splendor. I love you.
Because only you are here.
Only myself?
Without others to interact with, you cannot truly recognize your own image.
My own image?
That's right. In the act of observing others, you may find and recognize yourself.
Your self-image is restrained by having to observe the barriers between yourself and others.
And yet, you cannot see yourself without the presence of others.
Because there are others, I can perceive myself as an individual. If I am alone, then I will be the same without others. For if this world is only of me, then there will be no difference between me and nothing.
By recognizing the differences between yourself and others, you establish your identity as yourself. The very first other person is your mother.
Your mother is a different individual.
Right, I am me and she is she. But are you really sure that the perceptions of others form my true self?
It's true. Shinji Mikari.
It's taken you this long to realize that? What an idiot!